Dragon Age the Veilguard releases very, very soon, and if it did the series justice, it could have been this year's Baldur's Gate 3 or Elden Ring. Instead, it feels like an underwhelming, corporatized, empty shell that may result in the end of BioWare. The truth is, Veilguard was doomed the moment it was officially revealed with its new title back in June. Before it was unveiled, there was still genuine enthusiasm for the series. People had been begging for a new Dragon Age for like 10 plus years, but within seconds of that Summer Games Fest trailer starting, it was all over. This looked like a mobile phone game, a Fortnite spin-off. This was not Dragon Age. Fans of this series remember the glorious days of Origins, genuine sword and sorcery fantasy that immersed us in a rich world with so much potential. Sure, Dragon Age 2 was rushed out the door in greedy fashion by the game's publisher EA, and yes, Inquisition, it played like a tedious single-player MMO at times, so the series has never been perfect, it's always been a bit dicey, but there was always that hope that Dragon Age could get back to its roots, especially after the mammoth success of other traditional RPGs like Baldur's Gate 3, ironically a video game series that BioWare themselves created. We shouldn't forget that. Now, Veilguard does have a number of problems beyond its tone and graphical style. For instance, the God of War style action combat that is a huge departure from Origin's strategic tactical combat that fans loved. But the truth is, all of these design problems could have been forgiven if this actually felt like Dragon Age. It doesn't. This is a crime. The studio should be held accountable. Let's look at the Canary, for instance, one of the in-game races. Originally, they were menacing, they were fierce, a truly intimidating part of the Dragon Age universe. Now they actually just look like a bad deepfake that you'd find on a not-safe-for-work website. Then there's the characters' head sizes. Why are they so big? A fan actually went into Photoshop and they reduced them. The game looked somewhat normal, meaning BioWare did this on purpose. This was a stylistic choice to win over, I don't even really know who, because everyone not in denial is laughing at this game. And what about the companions? Because in the past, the people who tag along with you on your adventure, they were always a big part of BioWare's best older games, whether it's Mass Effect, Knights of the Old Republic, Baldur's Gate 2. Across the board, though, it just feels like fans are struggling to find anything appealing about the cast this time around. The dialogue feels like it was crafted by someone who keeps a spreadsheet of every race, gender, disability, and they cross-check it every 3 seconds to make sure no one is offended by the writing. Most of the cast, they just feel like losers. And it's saying something when even the weirdo fans, who are usually producing erotic fan art for BioWare games, they're actually instead debating whether the skeleton character or the geriatric old man character are the most appealing. Even those people think most of the characters are just weird looking. But in a series of disasters over the last little while in gaming, for instance, Concord, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, Star Wars Outlaws, BioWare have fallen into the same trap. They underestimated how quickly people will run in the opposite direction if a game simply looks awful on the surface. Even if the game played fantastically, and I mean there are some positive previews that are out there from people who've played it, it doesn't really matter because you take one look at this and you're embarrassed. You would feel embarrassed to play this. And let's take a look at how this happened, because bad decisions, they start at the top. And we have Exhibit A, queerosexual gendermancer, Corinne Bush. Her words, not mine. IGN actually revealed, kind of by accident, like they thought they were doing good marketing for the game when they did this, because, by the way, they're paying or being paid to exclusively market the game. That's not a joke. They revealed that the gendermancer was hired and made project director because of their experience working on The Sims. No RPG experience, just The Sims. Now, I, like every psychotic, have removed a few swimming pool ladders in my time, but this was meant to be BioWare's big RPG comeback. And immediately, they got it wrong by hiring the wrong people. These same people, they will call you bad names if you suggest the queeromancer was hired to tick a diversity box, because, yes, could you believe it, they are trans, but if they were hired on merit, then this is just incompetence, given how bad the current reception to the game is. The decision making, it has clearly been poor across the board. Even if the game turns out to be great, and we were wrong to have judged a book by its cover, we spoke too soon, it doesn't really matter because the overall presentation, the vibe that they went for, normal people are just going to be turned off. The average gamer, they want games that look like Space Marine 2, Black Myth Wukong. They don't want this Clash of Clans if it was an RPG spin-off. That's what this looks like. And it doesn't matter either how many puff pieces IGN write for them. And again, that's happening, by the way. BioWare and IGN, they're in bed with each other. They're desperately trying to turn around the game's reputation, puff piece after puff piece, shill after shill on the IGN team. It's made a fat lot of difference to gamers' enthusiasm. They all hate it. On that note, though, there's been rumors circulating that pre-order sales for the Veilguard, they're way down, and that's in comparison to other upcoming releases like Dragon Ball Sparkling Zero. It's not like just everyone stopped pre-ordering games across the board. But if you aren't convinced by those rumors, what about this statement from EA where they claim that there's demand for Dragon Age? So they say here, Dragon Age the Veilguard pre-order figures, they're tracking within expectations, according to EA. I mean, some might say that's good news, but that doesn't really sound like anything to get excited about. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence. They're not really shouting from the rooftops, this is a success. They're essentially just saying it's not totally bad news. We're not panicking just yet. But I feel like they would have sounded a bit more pumped if they actually had positive news to share. They did also claim that there's a strong demand, but let's be honest, EA, there is a strong demand, but it's for a ballsy, dark Dragon Age that people were expecting. And now they're not getting that because BioWare, they don't know what they're doing anymore. And I do actually want to challenge EA on the supposed strong demand for the Veilguard, because if there is genuine enthusiasm, we should be able to see it here on the best-selling games on Steam globally. So I'm looking for the Veilguard. I'd expect maybe the top 10, no, top 20, top 50, top 100? Surely it's in the top 150, and oh, here it is, ding ding ding, number 109th best-selling game on Steam. Now, being honest, the game being this low on Steam, despite being so close to release, it's pathetic. This is a game where if it looked as it should, a manly, mature sword and sorcery RPG, it would be number 1 on the Steam charts. Instead, it's on page 2. Where do you bury a dead body? You bury it on page 2 of the Steam charts because these are the games no one cares about, or people already bought them because they came out like 5 years ago. I saw this argument as well from the Cope Guard, where they say, oh, it's doing so well, it's in the top 5 selling upcoming games on Steam. Haters, racists, you lose. And you read that and you think, okay, maybe they're right. Maybe I just want the game to fail because I'm a big sexist who just hates women. Or maybe this logic, it's just totally wrong. If we look at the Steam charts, this is about how games are selling right now. Not all time, eternity, just how they're selling at the moment. The Veilguard is never going to sell more pre-orders than it is right now. It is the best time for the Veilguard. I mean, it has all the hype behind it that it's going to get, and it may be very piss weak, dismal, circling the drain level of hype, but this is as good as it gets for the Veilguard outside of the actual launch. Despite that, the game is at 109 on the Steam charts, which this person is trying to argue is a great thing. And they can only do that because they cherry-picked only non-release games. That's how they're trying to say it's in the top 5. However, what they're forgetting is there are games on the Steam charts that have been up for pre-order for months, even years. And they don't come out until like next year or beyond. These games have almost certainly sold better than the Veilguard. And we're talking about games like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Stalker 2, even Silent Hill 2 Remake is doing better, and I imagine that's got a tiny budget in comparison to the Veilguard. Just look at the wish listings as well. Veilguard is at 34 most wishlisted. Dragon Ball Sparkling Zero is at number 20. Stalker 2 is at number 4. And these games, they have tiny budgets in comparison to the Veilguard. 5 years development, probably expensive salaries. They don't compare. The Veilguard just isn't doing that well. And given all of this, the pre-order numbers, the heavily disliked trailers on YouTube, the general reaction from the public, you'd think that maybe BioWare's employees, they'd learn from, say, the Concord developer who was calling everyone talentless freaks, throwing fuel on the fire. You'd think they'd learn, maybe stay quiet, let the final product do the talking, but that hasn't happened. Instead, the creator of Dragon Age has decided to antagonize those who are skeptical. And sure, he doesn't currently work there, but he's obviously close to the team. He's still somewhat involved in the conversation. Here's what he says on Blue Sky, which I'm guessing is a low-rate X alternative, and he's probably using it because he knows anyone outside of his own echo chamber would just be calling him a moron. And he says, apparently the usual suspects are upset at how woke the new Dragon Age is, and apparently sudden and unexpected development in the series. Fucking tourists. David, this is what happens when you drink the BioWare Kool-Aid for too long. You start behaving like an android from Westworld who can't see what's really going on, can't see the blatant change in tone between, for instance, Dragon Age Origins all the way to the Veilguard, where a once great series with integrity now looks like one of those scam game ads that we get on YouTube. And just his argument of, oh, Dragon Age was always woke and you're just pretending to care now to get angry. I mean, if you look back, Dragon Age Origins, it has a couple of characters that are interested in the same sex, and no one cares. No one thought that that game was pushing a blatant agenda, because people found it to be a quality game that was focused on being a good time. It wasn't purely focused on those couple of characters. It's just like Baldur's Gate 3 is revered for being a high-quality RPG, and no one really cares or talks about the game's diversity all that much because it wasn't the sole focus of the game's development. Veilguard, on the other hand, feels like it was crafted from the ground up to tick boxes that please HR managers and to purposely antagonize the average gamer who is just looking for escapism. To basically say to them, you're a bad toxic gamer because you just want a fun game and you don't really want to be lectured to about modern real-world political issues. That is the vibe that Veilguard gives off, and people like David, again, Dragon Age's creator, don't see that as a problem because they've spent like the last decade losing their mind to politics, and it's pretty obvious that the current BioWare team who created this, they feel the same way that he does. And if you think about it, games journalists, or whatever you want to call them, they tell us that all problems in the industry right now, they're all caused by evil, greedy executives. And we'd be living in a gaming utopia if the pink-haired, nose-ring-wearing devs were just left to be allowed to cook. And absolutely, executives have certainly ruined the industry with the many monetary schemes that you just cannot escape. Microtransactions, loot boxes, whatever. But in this case, and this is the case for many other games as well, like Concord, the executives by themselves are not really the problem. The truth is, a lot of these executives, they're hiding under the table because they're scared of losing their cushy positions if they stand up to the cult-like insanity that is running studios like BioWare. BioWare is now a cult. It's a place where you get hired for your political beliefs, agreeableness, gender, race, basically everything except for merit and talent. This is how you end up with the Veilguard. Do you really think that rich executives feel good about putting out what looks like a genuine piece of crap that no one is truly excited to buy? Even if the game sells okay, imagine how well it could have done if there was actually some genuine hype for it based on it actually looking incredible, instead of people disgruntledly just buying it on name alone, which is what's happening. And then there's the recent previews where content creators were flown out to EA to test out the game. There were some mixed opinions, but there were also plenty of positive opinions, positive impressions. And the reason why is the individual elements of the game, they have had a lot of investment. For instance, many are praising the technical quality of the graphics, the hair, the smoothness maybe of the action combat. The overall game apparently plays pretty well. The problem is, if people take one look at your game and they want nothing to do with it, just like with Concord, which also apparently played well, no one's going to buy it because there's plenty else out there that not only plays well, it also looks cool. And this is the most disappointing thing, because BioWare were clearly given the time and the resources to make any sort of RPG that they wanted. In terms of style, they have ruined the series, they've turned off long-time fans, and they've also ensured that potential newcomers will just laugh at this. They'll go and play something else. Imagine what could have been. 5 years dev time, unlimited money basically from EA. This could have been the next big thing for RPGs. BioWare's redemption arc, a gritty RPG that saw them return to their roots, and instead it may well be the final nail in their coffin, because unless there's a truly brilliant game hidden away under all this and we just haven't really seen it, they will not be able to overcome the negative perception, and this game will fail.